Nikola Jokić can't jump over a puddle of water, yet he is the best player in the NBA. The Joker is the best passing center in basketball history, bending the reality of what a center can do and becoming the lowest drafted player ever to win the NBA MVP award. This is the story of how the chubby kid from Serbia became an NBA champion and one of the most unusual superstars in NBA history. Nikola was born in Sombor, Serbia, into a poor family of 6 people living in a cramped 2-bedroom apartment. However, what they lacked in resources they made up for with a love for basketball. Nikola's 2 older brothers were both talented players, and their father loved basketball more than anything. But Nikola was different. He was a shy, introverted 10-year-old who was short and chubby, and his least favorite class in school was PE. When his father told him he had signed him up for his first basketball practice, Nikola cried and didn't want to go. He started playing as a point guard, and the coaches quickly realized that this chubby kid was quite talented. Despite being the slowest kid in every game, Jokić could really play, and he soon fell in love with the game. However, at 14, Jokić quit basketball. It wasn't that he didn't enjoy the game, but because he found something he cared for more than basketball: horses. I could actually play basketball when I was about 13-14 years old, and I was here for about 6 months. Then my dad introduced my trainer to put me back in basketball. Nikola went to the local stables every day after school to clean and feed the noble creatures. However, his father made him return to basketball, saying that he might be able to buy his own stable someday. Jokić played very well in the youth ranks, catching the eye of the most influential basketball manager in Europe, Misko Raznatović. Misko owned his own club called Mega, which he used as a training ground to develop talent before selling them later. Raznatović learned about Jokić through the local newspaper and saw that he was averaging 20 points and 20 rebounds per game. His first thought was that Jokić was simply more physically dominant than everyone else at that level. However, when he found out that Jokić was not physically dominant and was actually the least athletic player on the floor, the manager got fired up and demanded that this kid be signed immediately. Somehow, nobody really paid attention to this guy. This is the first and last player in the 27-year history of the agency that we signed without anyone seeing him play. Raznatović signed Jokić on the spot, something he hadn't done before or since, but it proved to be the best decision they both ever made. When he moved to Mega, Jokić started playing for their junior team, winning the MVP of the Serbian Youth League, making the first team All-EuroLeague team for juniors, and earning a silver medal at the Under-19 World Championship. However, despite being very good, there was a problem. Nikola was too heavy to play professional basketball. Jokić couldn't do a single push-up, and he would get exhausted after the first quarter. When I first started playing basketball back home in Serbia, Belgrade, I really couldn't do a push-up. At 17, he appeared in 5 games of the first Serbian league, averaging 2 points and 2 rebounds in 10 minutes per game. Mega's coaches gave him a nutrition plan and killed him in practice to improve his conditioning. But Jokić barely shed any weight. They knew something wasn't right and soon discovered his kryptonite. Nikola was devouring a Serbian pastry called burek, like there was no tomorrow. Burek is very high in calories, and to make things worse, Jokić would wash it down with up to 3 liters of Coca-Cola every day. Transitioning from youth basketball to professional basketball is hard for every teenager, but luckily for Nikola, it coincided with the return of his older brother Nemanja from America. Nemanja Jokić played NCAA basketball for Detroit Mercy, and could have become a professional player if he hadn't hung out with Darko Milicic. Darko was drafted 2nd overall by the Pistons in 2003, but was more famous for his partying and bad behavior than for what he did on the basketball court. Nemanja experienced firsthand what can happen if a basketball player doesn't take basketball seriously. Realizing that his younger brother possessed tremendous talent, he influenced Nikola to stop eating junk food and drinking Coke, not to repeat the mistakes of Darko and himself. However, a key role in Nikola's career development was Mega's head coach, Dejan Milojevic. Milojevic realized very early that Jokić possessed court vision like no other player he had ever seen, so he gave Nikola complete freedom on the court. In 2023, it became somewhat normal for 7-footers to bring the ball up the court like a point guard, but in 2013, this was unheard of. Jokić had the luxury to handle the ball and not worry about making mistakes, something that American centers his age could only dream of. Jokić showed not only exceptional talent in passing, footwork, and ball handling, but also an approach to the game rarely seen in a 19-year-old. Boyishly playful, without any concern in the world, almost nonchalantly dishing out no-look passes like Magic Johnson. It's about teammates, you know. When I'm open, I score. When I'm fast, you know, playing basketball is just playing as simply as possible. In the 2013-14 season, the coach's effort to improve his conditioning finally yielded results. Jokić played in 38 games, averaging 11 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists in 25 minutes on the court. After that, Raznatović put his name in the 2014 NBA draft, but despite Jokic's early brilliance, NBA GMs were not overly excited about an unathletic and chubby 18-year-old from Europe. Ultimately, Jokić fell all the way to the second round and the 41st overall pick when he was finally selected by the Denver Nuggets. When his name was called, the NBA famously played a Taco Bell commercial during the pick, because who really cares about the 41st pick? But on the other side of the Atlantic, Jokić didn't care either. By the time his name was called, it was about 5 a.m. in Serbia, and Jokić was sound asleep. While most people would be up all night trying to find out which NBA club they'd end up playing for, Jokić gave 0 ducks. Unlike most drafted players, Jokić wasn't too eager to come to the NBA right away, and decided to stay one more year in Serbia. Ultimately, his decision proved to be the right one. Despite Mega finishing 10th in the Adriatic League in the 2015 season, Jokić became the league MVP, averaging 16 points, a league-leading 9.5 rebounds, and 3.5 assists per game. After that, it was time for Jokić to take his talents to America. But when he came over to play in the Summer League, Jokić did not excel, averaging 8 points and 6 rebounds in 5 games. The reason was immediately apparent to Denver coaches. No matter how much weight he lost at Mega, he was still not in great shape. So between the Summer League and the start of the season, Jokić lost 25 pounds in a few months. But there still was one problem for him to showcase his ability. His name was Jusuf Nurkić. Nurkić was a great friend to Nikola, but on the court they were competitors, depriving each other of much-needed playing time. Coach Malone tried to play both of them on the floor at the same time, but that was awful, and there simply wasn't room for both of them. After Jokić averaged 10 points, 7 rebounds, and 2.5 assists as a rookie and made the all-rookie first team, he started his sophomore season even better. Then Denver executives decided to keep the 41st pick over the 16th pick and traded Nurkić. As crazy as it seemed at the time, they were not wrong. In 2017, Jokić improved his numbers to 17 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists per game, while also finishing top 4 in the league in true shooting efficiency. In 2018, he was even better, finishing the year averaging 18, 11, and 6, becoming the most versatile offensive center in the NBA. Because he spent part of his basketball youth as a point guard, Jokić was not afraid to dribble the ball even against much faster players, knowing that he had the big body and technique to protect the ball while running through the paint. Jokić rarely turned the ball over despite making risky passes that would have resulted in turnovers with most other centers. But unlike Draymond Green, who's a good passer for a big man, Jokić is also dangerous as a scorer. Even though he's probably the least vertical player in the NBA, Nikola still kills you with polished footwork, a soft touch, and a series of head fakes that drive defenders crazy. To be honest, I always say I'm playing this way since I started playing basketball. His lethal arsenal on the low block and passing masterclass becomes even more dangerous when you factor in his fantastic face-up game, where he becomes the most unpredictable player in the NBA. If he's facing the basket at the top of the key, there is always a danger that he'll sink a mid-range shot or a floater right in the opponent's face. If the defender gets close to him, Jokić can get past them, either backing them down or facing up, and if everything else fails, he'll do his patented Sombor shuffle. Like all great players, Nikola developed a trademark move, and just like Jokić himself, it's extremely weird-looking and unorthodox. The Sombor shuffle is a half-step back, half-fadeaway that looks like a crooked and clumsy version of Dirk Nowitzki's legendary one-legged shot. But despite the aesthetics, it's extremely effective. I've hit a couple of those right-foot shots on my defenders, like frustrating as hell. You feel like you've done everything you could possibly do to make them take a bad shot, and it hits nothing but the bottom of the net. Another thing that flies under the radar with Jokić is how strong he is. When someone has muscles, they look like a strong man, but that can be very deceiving. Strength is in the hips, torso, and legs. Nikola is physically stronger than most centers. Others may look stronger, but they are not. However, despite Nikola's brilliance leading the Nuggets to a top 5 offensive team in the NBA, their defense was in the bottom 5, and a lot of the blame was on Jokić. His lack of athleticism was even more pronounced by poor stamina, making him one of the worst defensive centers in the NBA. Despite the Nuggets improving each year and winning 46 games in 2018, they missed the playoffs by 1 game, losing the deciding game of the season against the Timberwolves. But that would all change very soon. Strength changed, conditioning changed. I see a lot on the floor now. I don't get tired that much. I feel stronger. In the 2019 season, Jokić continued the upward trajectory, finishing the year with 20 points, 11 rebounds, and 7 assists per game. He made his first All-Star team and first-team All-NBA, and the Nuggets finished second in the West, making the playoffs after 6 seasons without an appearance. Denver won their first-round matchup with the Spurs but lost in Game 7 against the Blazers in the second round, despite the Joker averaging a near triple-double. In 2020, Jokić made the All-NBA second team, but the Nuggets regressed, and nobody gave them much chance in the playoffs. In the NBA bubble, things didn't start well as Denver was losing 3-1 against Utah in the first round of the playoffs. But largely thanks to Jamal Murray, who got the better of Donovan Mitchell in an offensive duel for the ages, the Nuggets won the series in 7 games. In the second round against the Clippers, they were in the same hole again, falling behind 3-1 in the series. Then, against all odds, they did it again, made another miraculous comeback, and won the series. Long distance from Murray. Only 11 different teams in NBA history have come back after being down 3-1, and the Nuggets did it twice in the same playoffs. However, in the conference finals, the Lakers were too strong, and the Nuggets lost in 5 games. When the next season started, we noticed a significant change in the Joker's appearance. Usually after the season he'd relax at home, eat tasty Serbian food and drink beer. But this time, he came back after the summer break noticeably slimmer and didn't have to spend the first 2 months of the season on a diet just to get into basketball shape. I just wanted to change something, you know. I wanted to see if I could do it. Could I really train my body? And I lost a lot of weight, and I feel much better. Because of this, we've seen his game rise from an all-star to the superstar level, and his numbers skyrocketed. Jokić averaged 26, 11, and 8 for the 2021 season, shooting extremely efficiently from everywhere on the court. But most people already knew that he was an offensive wizard. Where Jokić made the biggest leap was in his defense. He still wasn't a vertical rim protector like Rudy Gobert, far from it. But what he couldn't give the Nuggets with athleticism, he made up for in hustle. His smart positioning and long arms made him a plus defender when protecting the paint, and the Nuggets were 4 points better defensively with Jokić on the court. Because of his newfound conditioning, Jokić was second among all centers in steals, 4th in the entire NBA in deflections, and 12th in contested 2-point shots. Jokić led the NBA in all the advanced offensive ratings, and because of his improved defense, he deservedly won the MVP award. But because Jamal Murray tore his ACL, Denver got swept in the second round of the playoffs. In 2022, the Nuggets didn't have Murray for the season, and they also lost Michael Porter Jr. after just 9 games. Without 2 of their 3 best players, Jokić almost single-handedly led the team to 48 wins and a playoff berth with stats that were even better than the previous season. Nikola became the first player in NBA history with 2,000 points, 1,000 rebounds, and 500 assists in one season, which secured him a second consecutive MVP award. His backdoor passes, no-look dimes, and touch-and-go volleyball assists became an art form, and when you're talking about the beauty of the assist, there is nobody in the NBA who does it better than Big Honey. While many people believed he couldn't improve after that, Jokić surprised the world again. For much of the 2023 season, he averaged a triple-double, eventually finishing just 12 assists shy of a triple-double season average. His conditioning is something that nobody can question anymore, as Jokić is regularly outrunning most centers down the floor, usually handling the ball and setting up teammates in transition. But what went under the radar is how efficient Jokić was, having the most efficient shooting season in NBA history. There have been only 5 players in NBA history with a true shooting percentage over 70% for the season, and while Jokic's 2023 season is 5th on that list, everybody above him on that list is a center whose offensive diet largely consists of dunks, like Rudy Gobert, Mitchell Robinson, and Tyson Chandler. In 2023, Jokić only had 23 dunks, and his scoring output was mainly floaters, jump hooks, and mid-range shots, where Jokić is by far the best in the league in shots between 3 and 10 feet to the basket, hitting them with an insane 65% efficiency. While Joel Embiid won the MVP over Jokić, many would argue that it's because of voter fatigue, as Nikola once again led the league in almost all advanced metrics. The unprecedented hype around the 2023 MVP race saw many people lobbying for Embiid to get the award, mainly Kendrick Perkins, who accused Jokić of stat padding along with some very stupid racist remarks, which is better not to get into here. What do 100 triple-doubles mean to you? I mean, when you start stat padding, you know. But what's maybe even more impressive than Jokic's triple-doubles is that he doesn't care about the individual awards. He's all about the team's success. When reporters asked him about becoming the first player since Larry Bird who could win 3 consecutive MVP awards, Jokić nonchalantly responded, "Larry can keep the record. I don't care. I bet Bird doesn't even know where his MVP trophies are." While Embiid publicly demanded to win the award, Jokić kept his mouth shut and continued praising his teammates. You'll never hear Nikola talk about his accomplishments, and since Tim Duncan, there hasn't been a more humble and low-key superstar. But when the playoffs started, Jokić showed everyone who the real MVP was. While the Sixers lost in the second round for the 5th time in the last 6 years, with Embiid's numbers dropping across the board, the Joker dominated. And not only did he dominate, Nikola had one of the best playoff runs in NBA history. In the second round against the betting favorite Phoenix Suns, Jokić averaged a triple-double for the series and Denver advanced in 6 games. In the conference finals, the Nuggets swept LeBron James and the Lakers with Jokić averaging another triple-double. And then in the finals against Miami, the Joker averaged 30, 14, and 7, leading the Nuggets to their first NBA title and winning the Bill Russell Finals MVP trophy, becoming the lowest drafted player ever to win the award. With 30 points, 13.5 rebounds, and 9.5 assists per game in the playoffs, Nikola became the first player in NBA playoff history to lead all players in total points, rebounds, and assists. The Joker also set the record for the most triple-doubles in a single postseason with 10, while also shooting an insanely efficient 55% from the field, 46% from 3, and 80% from the free throw line. Now you are an NBA champion, Nikola. How does that feel? It's good, it's good. The job is done. We can go home now. Whatever his team needed, Jokić provided, making correct decisions on nearly every possession and scoring clutch baskets when the game was on the line. In historic terms, Jokic's 2023 playoff run ranks in the top 10 all-time in almost every advanced metric, such as offensive win shares, box plus-minus, and value over replacement player. In terms of points created for his team with scoring and passing, Jokić directly contributed to 55 points per game, which is the best playoff mark ever. His numbers are like someone combined Prime Shaq's scoring and rebounding, Steph's shooting, and Magic's passing all in one. If we look at Joker's playoff averages for his entire career, he's the only player who's in the top 10 in scoring and top 20 in assists and rebounds. Another crazy statistic is that Jokić is shooting 41% for 3 in the playoffs, which is a better mark than Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Ray Allen. He's also 5th all-time in playoff rebounding percentage and 2nd all-time in box plus-minus, behind only Michael Jordan. But when it comes to player efficiency rating in the playoffs, Jokić sits at the top, in front of Jordan and LeBron. If you didn't know, now you know. Jokić is among the top 5 best offensive players ever, and the things that used to be his weakness, stamina and defense, have now only become Nikola's strengths. Out of the 16 playoff games, the Nuggets had the 3rd best defensive rating. In 4 out of 5 games in the finals, they held Miami to under 100 points. While most athletic bigs try to block shots, Jokić bothers and baits shots with his long arms while never jumping in the air. Because of this tactic, he never gives up defensive rebounds and is in the perfect position to run the fast break. When you combine his IQ with active hands and nimble feet, you get an excellent defender. In the 2023 playoffs, opponents involved Jokić in over 40 pick-and-rolls per game, which was 8 more than any other player. It was obvious that opponents tried to attack him and make him work on defense, but when Jokić defended pick-and-rolls, it produced just 102 points per 100 possessions. That's a better mark than Jaren Jackson, Anthony Davis, and Draymond Green, the best defensive big men in the NBA. Jokić has signed 2 maximum deals so far, and he's likely going to sign the 3rd one, which will make him the highest-paid player in NBA history. But that doesn't matter to him whatsoever. Jokić married his high school sweetheart, and apart from his family, All he cares about is his horses. His father's prophecy came true, and Nikola was able to buy his own stable, and he even races when he's in Serbia, which makes him happier than any triple-double or MVP award. Not bad for a chubby kid who used to drink 3 liters of Coke a day and couldn't do a single push-up.